Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Jane. My husband Mike is behind the camera. We're British, early retirees, debt and mortgage free and living a thrifty, frugal life here on a super tight budget in Brittany in northwest France. And every Friday we open our kitchen and we cook something for you. And this week it is an absolute British classic. And this week I make for you steak and kidney pie. Now if you've never eaten this and you're just thinking to yourself, well, that sounds unusual, like I said, it's a very traditional British dish. And it's where you take really good beef and you add some beef offal to this, in this case kidneys, and it really stretches this dish out and it has a really rich, robust flavour to it. And it really is a way to a British person's heart. So without further ado, let's get cooking. I'm going to start off by running through my ingredients to make my steak and kidney pie. I am going to be making a gluten-free pastry. So I have my gluten-free flour, my xanthan gum, I'll need cold water, a couple of eggs, and I'm going to use butter today. You could use a cooking spread, a vegetarian version of this, because this at the moment is €5.50. So if you want to make this cheaper, go ahead, absolutely go ahead, because the butter is very expensive at the moment. So that's the ingredients for my pastry, and I'm going to be making my pastry in my food processor, and I will show you how I do that. Then going in my steak and kidney pie, I have obviously my steak, which is casserole beef here. Any bits that are too tough in it, I will cut them out. I mean, this is basically a cheap cut of beef. And you have 3:1. That's the ratio of steak to kidney. So if you have 3 parts beef to 1 part kidney. So I have here 1.5 kilos of beef and half a kilo of kidneys. And let me talk to you about the kidneys as well. Ideally, I'd have had ox kidneys or beef kidneys, but I had to have what the supermarket had, and they had, this is pig's kidneys, pork kidneys. And these have already been how French are the butchers. They're already sliced. All I really need to do is cut each piece into about 6, because the kidney pretty much falls apart in the pie, but it gives a real richness to it. I'm going to be adding lardons to mine, and lardons, as you can see, are chunks of fatty cut up bacon. You can use this, but you can omit this if you want. You could use any fat for frying the beef in, you could use some more butter, but the lardons really adds to the richness. You're going to need some kind of stock to add to this. I'm going to use a stock cube. I've also got some mushrooms. Ideally, I'd have a full pannick full. I will cut each mushroom into 4. The best thing to have for steak kidney pie would be a dark brown beer to go in it. I haven't got any dark brown beer. Somebody gave us some red wine. We don't drink the red wine. I only use it for cooking. So I'm going to add some red wine into mine. And of course, I will season it as well. I've got 3 onions to go in here as well. So if you think that 500 grams is 1 pound of beef, 1 pound of beef would be 1 onion and probably about a third of a pound of kidneys. And then you'd need about a third of a pound of mushrooms. I'm going to add a good spoonful of mustard to this as well. I think it really makes it very rich, and I've got it. And I will also add a really good shake of Worcestershire sauce to it as well. So those are all my ingredients. I'm going to cut my beef up into mouth-sized pieces, not too small. I don't want it to fall apart in the pie, but I don't want to have to be cutting the meat up once it's already in the pie. I'm also going to cook mine in my Instant Pots. So whereas if I was doing this on a stove top, in a stove top I would probably leave this to simmer for 3 hours. If I was doing this in a slow cooker, I'd put this all in the morning and probably a 7 to 8 hour slow cook. But I'm going to put this in my Instant Pot and it will cook it in under an hour. I'm sorry about the eggs, the fruit bowl, the lemon juice, the coffee, everything being in shot at the moment, but I live in a real kitchen and I don't have somewhere for everywhere, so it is a bit cluttered. So I'm going to start making my pastry. I'm going to start off with adding in here a kilo of flour. I'm then going to add in 1, 2, in my food processor, and I am stretching my food processor here to the limits of its capacity, I may add. I have added 1 kilo of flour, and I will add over bit by bit as it mixes down. I will add in 500 grams of butter and mix it all down. There may not be room in this machine because it's as you can see, it's just a standard size home machine to add in the liquid, and I might have to do that in a bowl, which is not a big problem. I'll show you how I do that, but I'll show you this when it has turned into breadcrumbs. Here is the result. I'm just going to check through this with my hands to make sure that all the butter got mixed in properly. You can see every now and then I come across a lump that the machine didn't do. And don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. You know, this is your dinner. This is my dinner. This is not, you know, it's not a competition and about perfection. Home cooking isn't like that. So, I can make a well in the bottom. Normally, if I was making less pastry than this, I would do this actually in the food processor. Because this is messy. So I have my 2 eggs mixed with water. And I'm going to add some in, about half. And what I do when I mix this in is a sort of figure of 8 and turn the bowl. So I become the dough hook. I don't want to put my hands in it because I don't want to make my pastry warm. I'll do the speedy up bit now on the editing, and you can see it when I've finished it. So here is everything prepared. You can see I've left the beef in quite large chunks. I really don't like it in a pie if you cannot see the chunks of beef. Whereas you can see with the kidneys, I've cut these into sort of half the size of the beef. I could cut these even smaller again. And to a degree, these will just melt into the pie. Now, you could saute this in a big saute pan, a big saucepan, but I'm going to do this all in my Instant Pot. And because I'm going to pretty much crowd my Instant Pot with this is going to take about 30 minutes for me to saute it. So Be aware of that. If you're going to saute this in your Instant Pot, this is a huge amount and I'm batch cooking, and this will completely fill up my Instant Pot. So the sauteing is going to take me longer. Let's go and get this into the Instant Pot. Something else I like to add to mine is a sprinkle of thyme. So you can see there, because there's quite a lot of meat in it and thyme in it. Some people like to add sage to their steak and kidney pie, but I like thyme. And you'll see when I seasoned this, I didn't add any salt. And I didn't add any salt to this because this has got 300 grams of bacon in it, which is very salty. So I have sauteed this. You saw me add 1 cup of wine, and then I added to that as well 1 cup of water. You saw me add the 4 little stock cubes, and they are vegetable stock cubes, so they have a very tomato background flavour to them. But you could add a couple of tablespoons of tomato concentrate. And I'm not going to do that. I don't like to open a whole tin of it for 2 spoons. That's why I use the vegetable stock cubes. So you saw me saute that. Let me just rearrange this for you a minute. Okay. I'm now going to set this to pressure cook on high for 30 minutes. When it's done and it's cooked, I'll release the pressure, I'll open it up, and I will see if the meat is tender enough to our liking. I only want to cook it for a small amount of time, like 30 minutes at a time, because you really don't want the meat to be mushy. You still want it in lumps, you want it tender, but definitely in lumps. So I'll set it to pressure cook. I'm going to set it to custom. I'm going to set it to 30 minutes on high and start. And I'll check this in 30 minutes time. So I have now cooked this on the pressure cooker on high for 30 minutes. And the beef isn't cooked, nowhere near cooked as much as I'd like it to be cooked. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook that now for another 20 minutes. So there we go, there's the finished results. Steak and kidney pie with steamed Savoy cabbage and carrots in gluten-free pastry. Normally, I can't eat the pastry and I have to end up eating the inside of the pie. So I'm really going to enjoy this today, to have some lovely buttery pastry with lots of gravy. We really hope that you enjoyed our thrifty recipe this week, and if you did, please hit that like button. We read every single one of your comments and thank everyone for leaving a comment as well. Just leaves me to say, on behalf of Mike and I, we'll see you again soon. Bye!